Good day everyone, my name is Jocelyn Lulu and today I'm going to discuss about sewing machine. And before we start, we have here our objectives. For the end of the discussion, you will be expected to learn the origin of sewing machine, the difference of hand sewing and sewing machine, and you will be familiarized the parts of sewing machine, and lastly, learn the importance of sewing machine. So let's begin. The origin of sewing. Sewing started as earlier as a time of cavemen covered themselves up with patches of leather when the weather was cold. Indigenous cultures around the world also show an evidence of sewing clothing pieces from hides, leaves, and other fabric materials. The sewing machine appeared in the 19th century, which led to full textile sweatshop in urban centers. By the 20th century, clothing was mass-produced but remains relatively expensive. As a result, home sewing became a norm, which allowed many housewives to create their own garments out of sewing patterns. Sewing is one of the first and most basic craft of humanity during back to the Stone Age. In fact, sewing is so old that it predates our own species and was practiced by the earlier hominin people to make the first clothing. The history of sewing is the history of humanity and well worth exploring. What is sewing? Sewing, or pananahi in Tagalog, is the process of using a needle and thread to connect pieces of fabric or attach them to a fabric surfaces. It's a practical skill used to make or repair clothing. It can also function as a creative outlet. Today, sewing is done by hand and/or a sewing machine, electric equipments to make the process quick and efficient. Besides clothing, sewing is used to make quilts, bed covers made of layers and pieces of fabric and isolated with batting. Quilts can be decorated using several sewing processes, including applique, in which small pieces of cloth are sewn onto a fabric backing to form a design. Other sewing methods include embroidery, in which thick colorful thread are used to create designs and images on a fabric surfaces. Sewing isn't the only textile process that uses needles. A related process called knitting uses two large needles to loop and connect continuous pieces of fibers or yarn to make things like sweaters and scarves. Knitting was discussed with the Group 1. Sewing machine can be computerized or they can be mechanical. Computerized sewing machine can be perform various functions that are required to be done while stitching for home. Finally, with the growing commercialization, increasing fashion, and a move towards fashionable clothing, sewing machines are here to stay. They provide a beginning to human need for dressing exclusively and elegantly. Hand sewing. Hand stitching is an easy method of stitching hems, small sewing project, and mending clothing. If they don't have a sewing machine or an experience in this type of machine, the job is simply done by hand. Sewing machine. Any of a various machine of stitching material, usually having a needle and shuttle to carry thread and powered by threadle, water power, or electricity. It was the first widely distributed mechanical home appliance and has been an important industrial machine. But what are the differences between hand sewing and sewing machine? The most important concept to understand is the number of threads. Machine stitching has two threads, a spool and the bobbin, and they interlock between the layers of fabric. Hand stitching only has one thread in the needle and it is sometimes atop and sometimes beneath the fabric layers. Hand sewing can improve your coordination and it has a better control, and this is expensive and portable, and it takes a minimum space, and you can work without electrical power, and this is relaxing and quiet. Sewing machine is faster than hand sewing. There is no doubt that sewing by machine takes far less time than sewing by hand. You can finish machine-sewn seams in a matter of seconds. Convenient. Once you get a hang of how to use your sewing machine, threading and bobbin using press and etc., machine sewing is extremely convenient and a great way to complete projects of all sizes. You just need to learn and set up first. Professional. Sewing machines afford a level of professionalism with stitch length and stitch width that it's hard to achieve when sewing by hand. A straight lock stitch and most common mechanical stitch can only be achieved on a machine. For example, while a hand sewing might be better for small precise projects like buttons, machine sewing will get you the most exact straight line possible. Many sewing machines offer several different stitch patterns. Sewing machine is extremely convenient and a great way to complete projects of all sizes. While the hand sewing might be better for small precise projects like buttons, machine sewing will get you the most exact straight lines possible.
Now, let's learn about some materials or equipment used in sewing. For the purpose of these lessons, we will focus in sewing machine. Different parts of sewing machines and its functions. Number 1. Spool pin. The spool pin holds the spool of threads for you, making it easier for you to thread your machine and keep the thread coming as you want it to. Number 2. Bobbin binder spindle. A bobbin is a little cylinder that may come with or without flange. It holds the thread that is wound around it. The spindle is where the bobbin is placed during the winding. Number 3. The bobbin winder stopper. The bobbin is only so large, it cannot always hold the amount of the thread you want to put in on. This part stops the bobbin from collecting thread when it has reached full capacity. Number 4. The stitch width dial. On many newer sewing machines, you get a variety of stitch options to use. The purpose of this part is to control the zigzag stitch options while you are busy concentrating in your sewing. Number 5 is the pattern selector dial. This little dial allows you to select one stitch pattern out of many that come built into your sewing machines. You just turn the dial to get the pattern that you want on your clothes and other fabrics you want to mint or create. Number 6 is hand wheel. This is the manual needle control which raises or lowers the needle. It is usually located at the right hand side of the machine. It should not be that hard to turn. Number 7, the stitch length dial. More recent sewing machines may have this part attached to them. Its purpose is to control the length of your selected stitch. This helps you to stay in control of your sewing duties and make sure you get what you want and needed. Number 8, the reverse stitch lever. Once you push this lever, you get to sew the opposite direction. This function makes you sewing a little easier and faster to do because you can go forward or even reverse when you need it. Number 9 is the power stitch. Power switch means the off-on office of the sewing machines. Normally, power switch is located in the right side of the machines. Number 10 is the bobbin winder thread guide. These types of thread guides are used during the bobbin winding. 11 is the thread tensions dial. A thread tensions dial is used to control the tensions on the top thread. Number 12, the thread take-up lever. During sewing the fabric, the top thread passes through the thread take-up lever. The sewing thread take-up lever moves up and down with the sewing needle. Number 13, the needle clamp screw. Needle clamp for sewing machines, particularly child sewing machines, with a needle clamp knob located between the parallel needle and the preser's bar. The clamp knob and screw extend from the needle bar to strike the preser bar when retracted from the sewing needle, thereby preventing loose of the clamp screw. Number 14, the preser foot. A preser foot is an attachment used in a sewing machine to hold fabric flat as as it is fed through the machines in stitches. Preserved feet have two toes, one to hold the fabric down on either side of the needle. Number 15. The bobbin cover. A bobbin cover, when used with the correct bobbin, will hold the bobbin snugly in place, which will allow the machines to neatly unravel it. The bobbin cover also adds tension to the bottom thread, much like the tensions assembled for the top thread. Number 16. The bobbin cover release button. The bobbin cover release button is used to release the cover for entrance to the bobbin. Number 17. The feed dog. Feed dog, it is an interesting name, but it has a very straightforward function. This part feeds your fabric through the sewing machines while you are sewing. This helps you concentrate on other sewing needs as you work. Number 18. Needle. Another self-explanatory label that tells you everything you need to know. The needle is an integral part of the sewing machines, and without it, the other parts cannot do their job. Number 19. Needle plate. Needle plate, this part is located right under the needle in the other presser foot. Its job is to help move the fabric forward as you sew it. It may help you push the fabric back when you use the reverse mode on your sewing machine.
The importance of sewing equipment and machine. The sewing equipment and machine is one of the most important innovations in the garment industry. Some of the major importance of sewing machines: it facilitates neater, stronger, and faster sewing. Regular stitches are easily accomplished by sewing machine. Sewing machines are used to achieve smaller stitches than the regular hand sewers. A sewing machine makes the task of sewing heavy fabric an easy one. This is important if you have a sewing business because accuracy and timeliness are very important. A sewing machine helps you sew heavy-duty fabric like denim and leathers. Heavy fabric like denim and wool can't be sewn by hand. A sewing machine makes the task of sewing heavy fabric an easy one. That's all for today, and I hope that you learned something about this presentation we discussed. Thank you, listeners, and God bless us all.